Welcome in, along with Mike Renner. I'm Steve Palazzolo, and today we're discussing the number 2 team in the entire nation. Who is it? Who's the number 2 team behind Alabama? A big debate, and it's all brought to you by Eckrich, the official smoked sausage of the college football playoff. So when we're talking about the college football playoff and projecting looking forward, I do think we all agree Alabama's number 1. They're by far the number 1 team in our numbers at PFF. But who is the number 2 team? We still have undefeated Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma, even your team, Notre Dame, your alma mater. Who do you have, Mike? Do you have a team that just stands out? Let's go through all these.
I think Ohio State stands out to me initially because, 1, how good their pass rush is. The caveat here being when Nick Bosa is healthy. 2, the fact that they have a quarterback in Dwayne Haskins who looks like a legit threat, even though he had a bad week this past week against Penn State. A running back in J.K. Dobbins that's very dynamic. And so that sort of combination is a good combination for winning football games. And again, they've already been tested by a very good Penn State team on the road, came away unscathed. To me, that's why they're the number 2 team in the nation.
When and if Nick Bosa gets back, I could absolutely see that. But I think what really bodes well for Ohio State is when you have a guy like Chase Young, who is the number 3 pass rusher on that team, essentially, when Bosa's healthy, steps in and has 10 pressures against Penn State. And then you throw in the fact that they're currently our number 2 offensive line in the Big Ten. Ohio State is strong in the right areas, especially if Haskins gets past some of those road jitters that he had to face in the whiteout with Penn State. What about Georgia? We've been doing a ton of Georgia videos right here on our YouTube channel. And every week I'm so impressed with their playmakers, their offensive line right now currently ranked number 1 in the SEC by our numbers. Jake Fromm managing the game pretty well, and a lot of defensive playmakers starting to step up there.
Yeah, you mentioned the biggest thing for me there is the offensive line. This offensive line is feasibly better than Alabama's offensive line from what I've seen. Left tackle Andrew Thomas played extremely well for Georgia. They just have they go 5 across in very good offensive linemen. I'm not sure there's another team in the country that can say that. So from that perspective, that's going to continually give you a running game, going to continually give you an efficient passing game. So there's a lot to like, and you mentioned the playmakers, Riley Ridley as well, very talented receiver.
Yeah, so many good receivers. Mecole Hardman, another guy that we love. And then if you look defensively, DeAndre Walker off the edge has actually been more productive than Lorenzo Carter and Bellamy from last year, Devin Bellamy. So they've actually improved a lot of their pass rushers, and DeAndre Baker still our highest graded corner in the entire country.
Man, I'm stuffed.
Me too.
Man, I think I could have taken you back in the day.
Taking me where? What are you, 140?
Maybe. I had some game.
You're talking about flag football, right?
Nope. Paper. I'd whip your tail in paper football.
You carry around a paper football?
Every day. I don't leave home without it.
Kick it off, big boy.
You're on.
Eckrich. Get Saturday done right.
Let's go to Clemson because, again, last week here we were talking about Trevor Lawrence, making the right move, going to the true freshman. He's a step up from Kelly Bryant as a passer. Of course, Trevor Lawrence gets concussed in the first half of the game, and Clemson has to go to essentially their 3rd string quarterback. But what about the rest of Clemson's roster when we, how they shape up against these other teams?
I think that's the biggest thing, though, that can't be overlooked is the fact that you still have a true freshman starting at quarterback. There's going to be mistakes made from him at the quarterback position to where the consistency, I'm not sure they're going to be there. And like you said, they almost just lost to Syracuse this past weekend. But the defensive line is as good, if not the best defensive line in all of college football in terms of stopping the run and affecting the pass, and no one even expected it. True freshman Austin Walker looks like already their best pass rusher on the edge. They added another guy to this extremely talented defensive front, so they go 5 deep of guys that can really affect both run and pass. No one else can say that.
I think my question with Clemson, as good as their defensive front is the coverage on the back end, not being one of the top units in the country so far. Let's go to Oklahoma and the Big 12. The Big 12 gets a bad rap sometimes for bad defense, and you try to figure out how good are these teams that are racking up all the points. But when you look at Oklahoma's offense, as much as we've loved Baker Mayfield here, and as well as he ran that offense, Kyler Murray does add a little bit more with his legs, and he is making similar big-time throws down the field. Kyler Murray, our number 3 graded quarterback so far.
Yeah, the legs part cannot be overstated because Baker Mayfield, as good as he was as a passer, if you shut down the pass, you could shut down that team. Now, shutting down the pass was difficult against them, but if you did, you could shut them down. Now, all of a sudden, if you're shutting down Kyler Murray as a passer, he's just going to beat you with his legs. He's going to, if all the wide receivers are covered, he's going to scramble for 20 to 30 yards because he's so dynamic as a runner. So at that point, what Lincoln Riley has at his disposal is scary for opposing defenses.
I would say this is one of the better Oklahoma defenses in recent years, but haven't been challenged a ton just yet. So I still have some question marks with them down the stretch. I do think the next team, Notre Dame, the other undefeated team that we need to talk about here, is a step behind some of these other teams. But because you went there, Mike, I'll give you a chance to state their case. How could Notre Dame be in this conversation?
The two biggest things to me, one is if Ian Book really is the passer we've seen the last 2 weeks, which is a very efficient, very accurate passer, all of a sudden you have a leg up on some of these teams who have question marks at quarterback. And they have playmakers on the outside to make plays down the field. And then the front seven, second best pass rushing grade of any team in the country. Jerry Tillery looks like one of, if not the best interior pass rusher in the country right now, and the best linebacker doing all of college football. So I agree, a step behind these teams, but any given Saturday, I think they could hold their own.
I will admit, I think I underrated Notre Dame a little bit coming in. I've been so impressed with their defense, and yes, QB Ian Book does add a level of efficiency to that pass game that they haven't had in many years. So who is the number 2 team? Give me your pick for the number 2 team in the country right now behind Alabama.
Nick Bosa comes back, it's Ohio State.
All right, you're taking Ohio State. I'm taking Georgia. I just love the offensive playmakers, the youth in their secondary around DeAndre Baker, pass rush, best offensive line in the SEC. I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs. So that's our breakdown. Who's your team for your choice for the number 2 team in the entire country? Our whole video has been brought to you by Eckrich, the official smoked sausage of the College Football Playoff. Don't forget to pick up Eckrich smoked sausage at your local grocery store for this weekend's tailgate or home gate party. And be sure to visit EckrichFootball.com for great game day recipes and to enter their season-long $1 Million Challenge.